everybody. Welcome to the Friday in the Maze Fest. This is the 12th annual one. Woo! I can tell y'all went out last night. Y'all are really tired still. I had a lot of coffee this morning, so it's okay. My name's Rico. I'll be the moderator for this portion of today at the baton stage. So we'll go all the way up to the quick talks at the end, and then break, and then go again, start it up, and then we'll start the award show later on today. But we have a couple of talks lined up. I want to introduce myself. I am an academic researcher in video games and queer movies, and a lead researcher in video game technologies for an NGO here in Berlin. And amazed the wonderful people asked me to moderate because they thought that I was charismatic, but once again, it's a lot of caffeine, so it's not charisma. Our first talk is about to come up right now, so I want to introduce her. It is Stay Sane. How does a disturbed mind become accessible? And I'll read a little bit about it. How does a disturbed mind become accessible? Can empathy be created? How can a mental discord be represented in games? Will we find answers? And this is about Natasha Sabine, and I'll read off her bio real quick. Natasha Sabine is a narrative and game designer. She founded the studio Natasha in 2022 and is currently developing her debut title, Psychotic Bathtub. Natasha teaches, that's a cool name. Natasha teaches storytelling and game design and visuals at Zurich University of Art and supports game studios in the creation of their, and I have to press read more, so when I'm reading a bio, it loads up like the last two words, supports game studios in the creation of their stories. So welcome Natasha up on the stage, and let's give her a full undivided attention, please. Give a hand clap as well.
Hi, Natcha here. Thank you for showing up. I didn't expect so many people. I thought you would still be sleeping. So I'm very hyped. Thank you. So stay sane. How does a disturbed mind become accessible? What can you expect from this talk? Well, maybe first off, a small disclaimer. We'll talk about mental disorders, as you might figured. And we will talk about self-harm. We will talk about self-destruction and intrusive thoughts. So if you feel like this isn't something you want to deal with right now, leave. Now, please, stay sane. Okay, you stayed. You're very stable. I'm happy. So maybe some background. As already mentioned, I'm a game and narrative designer. I come from Zurich. I founded my studio, Natcha. I just finished my bachelor's last year. Now I'm a teaching assistant, where I teach at Zurich, at the university, and I basically do a lot of storytelling and a lot of game visuals there. So that's basically my background in that context. And when it comes to mental health, I have a background too, as everybody does probably. So the thing is, I decided to really stick to those topics because I think they are important. And it is important to address them and to make them accessible. So this is basically one of my main focuses. And in that context, I will try to give you today some answers about how can empathy be created or how can mental disorders be displayed in games. And I will base those answers. I'm still trying to find myself, but I think I found some answers with my current game, as already mentioned, Psychotic Bathtub. So this will be a small case study about Psychotic Bathtub, the story of an escalating mind and ducks. So maybe first off, some of you maybe, hopefully, have already played the game. It's upstairs, exhibited. If you didn't, please do. I would be very, very happy about that. Well, Psychotic Bathtub, you find yourself as Ophelia in your bathtub and you're having a psychotic episode. You can interact with your environment. You can, for example, drink wine, but please be careful, it may turn into poison. You can discuss the voices in your head with your duck who claims to be your dad. You can embrace that or don't, it's up to you. It's a multilinear game with different endings. Think of Stanley Parable in a way, just with psychotic disorders and, well, ducks. So much about Psychotic Bathtub. When it comes to create empathy or just accessibility, we figured that it's quite important to create relatable themes so that players really can understand how somebody is feeling, even if they've never experienced mental health disorders or a psychosis. So this was one of the main themes or one of the main topics we try to do. What we try to do with Psychotic Bathtub, we try to create that empathy. We try to create that understanding how it is to have a psychotic episode. So this is that. And the thing is, we also try to create very accessible gameplay. So it's basically really just a point-and-click mechanic, which really, it's very basic. So basically everybody can play it. It's barrier-free. And that was one of our main topics. But let's get into those main themes I address, or we address, in Psychotic Bathtub. One of the first themes are intrusive thoughts. I think, or I hope, that most of you know what they are. If you don't, an example. Imagine you're waiting for a train. You're waiting for your train. And you see it in the distance, rushing towards your station. And it's very close up to you. It's like here. And there's a little voice in the back of your head. And that voice says, jump. You don't. You hopefully don't. But that voice is there. And this is basically Psychotic Bathtub. Then what we also try to reach into is escapism, which, I mean, games offer that. It's an immersion which at some points maybe can be a bit destructive. And when we're at destruction, let's go into self-destruction. I think, or I guess, or I fear, most of you already had self-destructive thoughts. So it's something which is tangible, which is understandable and reachable. And guilt. Guilt is amazing. Amazing to write about, at least. Not really amazing to experience, but most of us have experienced that. And those topics are relatable, reachable, and quite dark. So we have to add humor. We really have to, because if we don't, who wants to think about intrusive thoughts all the time? Well, some people maybe do, and then we're back to self-destruction, but still, we have to have something which lightens the whole thing a bit up. And how do we do that? Ducks. Ducks are very often the right answer to everything, especially when it comes to humor. In the case of Psychotic Bathtub, we have this duck who claims to be your father, and you get into that discussion with this duck. You can embrace the duck or the fatherhood of your duck. Well, it's up to you. You can decide what you want to do. But this is the point where we tried to really bring this in. And still we try to have constantly this curve of, well, very disturbing themes, but also that humor, which maybe at some points makes you feel a bit strange, but still gives you hope. And accessibility. Accessibility is so important when it comes to mental health, or everything. And respect. Because what you don't want to do, or what we don't want to do, we don't make fun of psychotic disorders. We don't make fun of mental health problems. We still respect them, and this is very important to us. We constantly talk to people who have experienced those episodes, and we try to understand, and we try to see if they feel represented, if they think, yes, this is how this feels, and I feel respected. So this is one of the key points as well. Then distortion. This is one of the biggest problems you can basically face when you make a game about a mental health disorder, because at some point, or basically at probably each point, you will distort the disorder. Well, in a way, you can't make a disorder completely, or you can't recreate it in a naturalistic way. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? You will have that distortion, but you have to make sure how far can this distortion be. And sometimes you really have to distort to make things accessible, to make them understandable. So this is very present as well. Then why? Why make games about psychotic disorders? Why make games about mental health? I already addressed them. At least for me, from my personal experience, I think it's important that we tell those stories, that we share those experiences. They have to be addressed because they are there. From my family background, I have people in my family who suffer from psychotic disorders. So I've seen how you're pushed to the borders of society and how it's really hard to get a grip back in life and just be part of that society, because there's so much stigmatization out there. People don't understand what those disorders are. They fear them, and there's basically nothing there to take that fear away. And this is really what we're trying to do. And I think maybe you should too. Because I think it's cool, it's nice to tell those stories. And disclaimer, Psychotic Bathtub is a fictional story. It's based on many, many different talks we had with people who suffer from them, but it's all written together, so it's fictionalized. And this was my talk. Take care, stay sane, reach out to me. Thank you.
Ooh, give it up for Natasha. So now we're going to open it up for Q&As with the talk right now. So if you have any questions, raise your hand, and we'll come up to you and we'll ask, or you'll ask, and then Natasha will answer. Back over there. Oh, they got you. I was about to jump over the thing.
Yeah, first of all, thanks very much for the talk and also for presenting the game. I liked it very much when I tried it. I just wanted to ask, what especially particular is your audience? Like, is it more for people who are affected themselves to play it, or for people who are basically not knowledgeable about the topic to get more knowledgeable about it?
Well, first off, thank you. Well, it's quite a broad reach we have there. So we have people who are affected, who play it and play test it a lot. But we also have a lot of people who, for example, have psychotic disorders in their families and really get to know that in that sense. But still, it's not a therapeutic game. It's entertainment in that sense. So there we are very broad. We are very niche. I mean, it's a multilinear game about psychotic disorders, so it's very niche. But yeah, I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Right there in the front on the left. Oh, then we have one in the back, so you'll be next.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, for your typical gamer, do they usually understand what your games are about?
I hope. Well, usually from the feedback I get, they do. Although the feedback sometimes really differs, because some players really focus on the haha funny part of the thing, but sometimes we really have people who are quite disturbed by the topics, what we want to do, but we don't want to disturb them too much, so it's quite broad again. But mainly, yes, I think the people who play our games usually get what we do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And there was one up here on the left side. Right there, yep.
Hey, great talk. You mentioned that without humor, it can be harmful, but you also are worried about distortion. So how does one strike do you have any tips on striking a balance between the two, like going too much in one way or too much in the other, basically?
Well, playtesting. It's really much about, I think at some point when I started writing dialogues and texts like these, I was really just trying to figure out what language, what kind of words, what kind of sentences transport the feelings I want to get. So I think this was the main thing, and then really it boils down to just let people play your games and let them describe to you how they feel. And then you will get some parameters about what works and what doesn't. For example, we have some running jokes in the whole thing where we got a lot of positive feedback about where we really got to that balance of ahaha, funny, oh, not so funny. And we're really trying to recreate those then, once we have them. I hope this answers your question.
Do we have any more questions? I think you in the back. Oh, no, he said okay. I think he said okay. Oh, you got one more question.
Yeah, and another thing I noticed, you focused a lot on showing the effects of the disorders, but I think I found there was not really a lot of showing how to, for example, go to for treatments. So, are you planning to address this in something?
Well, the build you have upstairs is a demo, so it's shortened. There are different storylines which address those points more. The thing is, we're not trying to be therapeutic, as already mentioned, and there it's really, really hard. For example, if you just talk about medication, there are so many different aspects and experiences with medication out there and therapy, and it's really, really hard to talk about those topics and make them accessible and not, I think hurting, because especially when it comes to medication, it's really bipolar how people think about treating, for example, psychotic disorders. So this is something we don't want to get too close to.
Yeah, makes absolutely sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? I got one. Ducks. I have a friend who's neurodivergent, and we literally send memes of ducks to each other. And that's so crazy that you use ducks as like a manifestation of it. Why ducks?
Well, we really searched for something which isn't scary. Because I mean, when it comes down to the duck, it's something which is accessible, it's cute, it's out there, and it's still a surprising effect that your psychotic disorder starts to talk to you through this manifestation. And it was really just that. It was a suitable manifestation with many memes. So we really got the meme culture into that as well.
If there aren't any more questions, please give a round of applause for Natalia. Oh, no, we got one more in the front. Hold y'all round of applause. Wait.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you very much for this talk and the game. And I think it's very, very important to have more games out there that deal with this topic in a respectful way. My question is, especially if you have like a background in this topic, how I imagine it very hard to work on it in a professional way and keep your mental health stable in a way. So did you have any strategies or ways to deal with this while working on it?
That's a good question. Stay sane. They were back at the title. Well, I do have some strategies. For example, I'm very basic. I use Headspace a lot. Meditation really works for me at least. And I still have to say, working on Psychotic Bathtub isn't something which hurts me. It's something I love to do. I love to write about it because I think it's important, and it maybe is, even if it's not for the players, for me it's kind of therapeutic in a way to really just do that. So yeah, I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please give Natasha a round of applause, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for showing us that. We really do appreciate it.